Demon Slayer Infinity Castle made me go back to the cinema, and I really liked the movie. There we go, video over. I'm just playing. This video is over 30 minutes long. So grab yourself as much popcorn and some Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and let's get started. It has been over a year since I went to a movie theater to actually watch a movie. The last thing I saw in theaters was Deadpool and Wolverine, and before that, it was another year before I watched anything. I also did not see Superman 2025 in theaters or Fantastic Four First Steps in theaters. I have seen both movies, but not in the cinemas. So in the last 2 years, I have only seen 2 movies. So it goes without saying that my love for going to the cinemas has declined over the past 2 or 3 years. I still watch movies, but either on streaming platforms like Netflix, but mostly on those websites that I'm sure fall on the very legal gray area. And plus, watching movies in Canada in the cinema is ridiculously expensive, especially for the food and the drinks. But when I saw the Demon Slayer movie was coming out, the Infinity Castle one, it was something different. It was like, okay, maybe let me give it a try. I decided to watch all of Demon Slayer before watching Infinity Castle, because I was like, if I like Demon Slayer, the series, I will go to the cinema to see Infinity Castle because it's a different thing. So I am quite new to the fandom, and I do not plan on reading the manga. I wish to watch things as they get animated. Although some manga readers on TikTok just can't help themselves but spoil the deaths of almost every character. I think I know who dies later on, not of my own free will. It could be just a post or an edit of a character, and you have these chuckleheads in the comments being like, do you know he gets killed by the like, no, shut up. I don't understand why you have to ruin multiple major events for other people who are just watching stuff as it gets animated. If you claim to love the franchise, if you claim to love Demon Slayer as a whole, you are doing it a disservice by spoiling stuff, because you are turning people away from watching the animated stuff when it comes out. Now, I'm not saying if people get spoiled, Demon Slayer is just gonna lose a ton of money. What I'm saying is people won't have the same excitement they would watching the animated projects, and if you truly want to support this, you should not spoil it for people, and it's just plain annoying. Now, I did see the movie twice, once in sub with a friend and his brother who wanted to see it in sub, and another time in dub with a friend who wanted to watch it in dub. Now, I'll quickly touch on the sub versus dub conversation, because as someone who just got into anime and Demon Slayer as a whole, I find it also quite a bit annoying, this conversation, just because of one side. I mostly see people who prefer sub, nothing wrong with that, but I mostly see people who prefer sub constantly give their unwanted advice or criticism whenever another person is watching the show or the movie in dub. And it's all down to personal preference, and the fact that the show and Infinity Castle, the movie, has the option of dub makes it more accessible, and it's a good thing. Dub is a good thing if you like anime. Some people prefer watching it in a language they understand, and that's fine. Some people don't want to read, and that's fine. All of you sub snobs need to stop it, because it just, again, it makes you annoying, and it makes people not want to interact with the fandom. It's literally down to personal preference, and that's it. I saw the movie in sub and in dub, and I'll be honest, I prefer sub. Demon Slayer sub is elite. The Japanese voice acting is amazing. The dub is fine. Sometimes I also switch on dub, but I prefer the sub. Now, that doesn't mean if I see someone watching it in dub, I'm gonna be like, why are you watching it in dub? Bro, it doesn't have the emotion. Yes, I will say sub has more emotion, especially for the Mugen Train movie. The Japanese voice acting in that movie was insane. Kinda made me tear up. But now that's out of the way, and we can all respect each other's choices to not get spoiled, and of sub and of dub, we can properly get into the movie. Also, I do apologize in advance for any mispronunciations of names. I will try my best. I am not Japanese, so I will make a mistake at some point, so do bear with me. And if you like this type of content, movie/TV show reviews, do like and subscribe, and I will keep providing content to you in the best way I can. And if I do sound like a dying cow at some point, I am still recovering from a very bad cold. The movie picks right up with where the Hashira training arc ended, and the Hashira training arc is probably my least favorite arc in Demon Slayer, except for the end. It was explosive, just because nothing really happens in this arc. I do like the humor in this arc, I did laugh quite a bit, but nothing actually happens plot wise. The movie begins and we see different characters falling through the Infinity Castle after being drawn in by Nakime. And we see some characters in pairs and some being alone, with Tanjiro and Giyu together, Morichiro and Gyome together, Mitsuri and Obanai together, and then there's Inosuke, Zenitsu, Kanao, Shinobu, Sanemi and Genya by themselves, with Tengen and Rengoku, not Kyojiro, Shinjiro, the alcoholic abusive father or former alcoholic abusive father, guarding Nezuko in case a demon comes to get her. There's very little time that actually goes on before the action begins. In fact, the majority of this movie is just actions and flashbacks. There are 3 major fights in the movie. We have Shinobu versus Doma, Upper Moon 2, Zenitsu versus Kaigaku, Upper Moon 6, and Giyu and Tanjiro versus Akaza, Upper Moon 3. Unfortunately, Shinobu loses the fight, but I don't think any Hashira on their own could win against Doma. I don't think that's possible. I don't think any Hashira could beat Upper Moon 3, 2, don't even tell me about 1. Zenitsu wins against Kaigaku, which should have been announced by the Crows, by the way. I don't know why they didn't do that. And Akaza ends up killing himself after he remembers his past, his father, his wife, and his mentor. Tanjiro and Giyu technically did win because he was beheaded by Tanjiro, but this guy just refused to die. He was fighting like a headless chicken that's really good at martial arts. Whilst the Demon Slayers are fighting for their lives, and by the way, these no-named Demon Slayers, I think they're all cooked. Obviously, the movie doesn't show them dying as much. The movie focuses on the actual main fights and the main characters, but there's no way they're surviving this house of demons. The kids are using the Crows and Yushiro's blood demon art to try and map out the Infinity Castle to find where Muzan is hiding, because he's trying to heal himself from the poison that Lady Tamayo infected him with. That's about all that happens in the movie. There isn't too much in terms of plot advancement, but don't get me wrong, as much as could be fit into the movie without it being too crowded and too bloated with different plot lines, it's good, and it's not a dull movie. In fact, it's far from that. And the reason why the movie works and this style of storytelling for the movie works is because we've had 4 previous seasons of build-up for all these different characters. Even though some of them make a few minutes or even a few seconds of on-screen presence, we already know these characters and we have come to either love or hate these characters. So it's acceptable and it's understandable for a 2.5-hour movie, even though it's quite long, I've heard, for an anime movie. It still works because it focuses on what needs to be done. If the movie was just 2.5 hours of just bouncing around from just one character, it would be such a sluggish movie. Whereas there's something like Eternals, which brings 10 new different characters no one's ever seen before and try to shove them all into one movie, and that doesn't work because we don't have the previous build up to that. I have nothing but good things to say about this movie. In fact, there's only one thing I wasn't really a fan of, and I'll talk about that later. I wouldn't even call that a negative, just something I wasn't really a fan of. The first positive is the visuals. This movie is beautiful to watch. Demon Slayer has always had amazing animation, and the fight between Tengen and Upper Moon 6 proved that. The animation in the movie is somehow even better than past animations from Demon Slayer, and just the Infinity Castle alone, without the animated fights and the breathing styles, is already better than a lot of animation and CG out there, even in movies. The way everything moves and how smooth it does, how quickly, how slowly, it all looks really good. Like Doma's place in the Infinity Castle is beautiful, especially for someone as messed up in the head as him. And Nakame helping Akaza Aura Farm by lifting him up on the platforms in the scene where the platforms rise and then waterfalls come pouring out. I don't understand how they had the time and the budget to make this thing look as good as it does. Then the fights are just insane, and I will be discussing each fight in a bit. I like the fact that it's not just a repeat of the moves we've seen from the show. Yes, when you watch the show, you get familiar with the breathing styles, especially water breathing, because Tanjiro started off with water breathing and Giyu uses water breathing, but every single breathing style is done in an interesting way. There are 2 breathing styles that actually get to shine in this movie, which are thunder breathing, thanks to Zenitsu versus Kaigaku, and insect breathing, thanks to Shinobu versus Doma. The choreography of each fight is really good. I mean, one of the villains primarily just uses martial arts. He doesn't use any weapons, just hands and feet. And you can tell each character's individual fighting style and their technique from their body positions and their stances. Like Shinobu's attacks are primarily thrusting, while Giyu's are slashing and they flow like water breathing. And you can see all that even from the way they stand in the fight, which just shows the attention to detail that went into making this film. And as someone who paid money twice to see the film, I appreciate that, and it makes me feel like I got my money's worth. The score and the sound design are also amazing, especially the score. My favorite is either Zenitsu's Flaming Thunder God theme or Giyu vs Akaza's theme, but I think I prefer the Flaming Thunder God theme. The Shinobu vs Doma soundtrack was also good, and one of the good things about seeing the movie in the cinemas is the good IMAX speakers, which makes the sound effects even better, especially the fight between Shinobu and Doma. When she breaks the bridges over the water, you can genuinely hear the sound of wood breaking with her multiple attacks. Even the sound made when the sword drops on the wooden floor sounds exactly like metal dropping on a wooden floor. It's the attention to detail that really gets me. One more thing I will point out before I go in depth on the individual fights themselves is how well some of these abilities were integrated actually. A good example of this is when the kids use Yushiro's Blood Demon art to map out the Infinity Castle. The collaboration between those inside of the castle and those outside of the castle was really good, and I never knew that Yushiro's Blood Demon art could be used in that way, so that's another positive. But these kids were stressing when Nakimi expanded that thing, and I would have crashed out as well, because what do you mean I've spent hours and hours mapping out this place trying to find one person, and the thing just grows infinitely. And I saw this thing on TikTok. I'm not sure, TikTok is like full of misinformation obviously, but I think I saw this thing on TikTok that said the Infinity Castle grew to the size of Earth. Like, I'm done. There's no way I'm gonna keep mapping out that place. Now for the fights, and the first one I'm covering is Shinobu versus Doma. And oh boy, once Shinobu walked into Doma's place, domain, whatever you want to call it, and I saw Doma, I was like, you better run, because there's no way you're winning this. And this is not just about Shinobu herself. I am of the opinion, and you can try and change my opinion, that no Hashira on their own can beat Doma by themselves. I think this is like a general agreed thing. This is not a hot take. It's not possible. No Hashira by themselves can beat Upper Moon 3, 2, and don't talk about 1. It's revealed that it was in fact Doma who killed Shinobu's sister, which explains why she was tweaking in the Hashira training arc, had the veins popping and everything, which gives this fight some added weight, because at first I was like, this is a random pairing, and also a tragic element, because Shinobu is in a fight she cannot win, but she is fighting for personal reasons to avenge her sister. So it's for a noble cause, but it's still futile and she's still trying. And I respect that. That was a great character moment for me. I know she was filled with emotion and all that kind of stuff, and that makes her human, because in the previous season, she's always been the calm, put together character, and then seeing her break that character and it's all been a mask really shows that she is a person. That's good character writing in my opinion. The fight is the first time we get to see Doma's Blood Demon art, and everything about Doma is a contradiction to who he really is. It kind of messes with my head. First of all, he has this very calm, almost friendly demeanor. He's very pretty. He has a sense of fashion, nothing too flashy, but you can tell he dresses nice, has a whole crown and everything. His eyes have a rainbow effect to them, and his Blood Demon art is cryokinesis. He makes lilies out of ice. Everything about him is a contradiction to who he really is. He remembers Shinobu's sister, but does he feel bad about killing her? Of course not. And he's not even taking the fight seriously. He is literally just playing with his food. And the way he reacts to being poisoned is like, it turns him on or something. He likes being poisoned. He says it's so fascinating to be poisoned. Fighting this guy has to be one of the most infuriating things, because you can't win, but he will come down to just a bit above your level, just so you think you have a chance or a playing field, and he's just playing with you the entire time. Even his bloody backstory just goes like this.
I can't deal with people anymore. It's just, everyone sucks so hard, you know? Everybody is so stupid. And they all walk around going, yeah, 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 yeah.
No tragic backstory, no dead parents, no abuse of any kind. He was literally worshipped. He was just born a dickhead. Shinobu ends up losing the fight. Who's surprised there? And again, it's not a fight any Hashira could win by themselves, but now the animation is far from tragic. We do get to see more of Shinobu's breathing style, and the visuals, they're good. And I like that they are a contrast from her quiet, soft, put together demeanor. The visuals reflect her rage with the grotesque insect visuals, and that's another point to attention to detail. The visuals aren't just, hey look, this is cool. There's meaning behind the visuals, and I like that. Overall, the first fight was good. Now let's move on to the next one. This is the fight I didn't really have an expectation for. I saw the trailer, and the first time I saw it, I was like, who the hell is that? I had to go back to the show to remember who this bum actually was. But after watching the fights, this is one of my favorite fights in Demon Slayer. Same with all the fights in the actual movie, like the animation is top notch. And to be honest, I wasn't really worried about Zenitsu because he's part of the big trio, like, you know, Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu. He's facing the new Upper Moon 6, Kaigaku. He's a replacement, and I see why he's a replacement. He's not a very good Upper Moon. I mean, this was the previous Upper Moon 6. There is some backstory that fleshes out their relationship. Kaigaku was basically the model student of thunder breathing, being able to learn all forms except for the first form, while Zenitsu was only able to learn the first form, making them the complete package for thunder breathing, and Gramps made them both his successors. Kaigaku didn't like this because he sees Zenitsu as below him. Now let's be realistic here. All of us. Let's put down the whole upstanding, righteous anime protagonist wannabe attitude aside. If you worked hard and you trained to inherit something, right? And Zenitsu, this guy,
please, I'm asking you again, marry me! I beg you!
Why are you making such a scene in the middle of the road? She's clearly not interested in you. Let's go!
Don't you interfere! That girl is madly in love with me! The two of us are gonna get married!
When did I say anything even resembling that I loved you?
Don't be so scary! Fine, I give in, you win! I'll come along with you! Okay?
Don't let me force you.
I said, Olga! Be quiet! Stop moving around! What am I even looking at?
is placed on a tie with you when he could only learn 17% of the actual thing and you learned 83% of the actual thing, you would feel some type of way. Now, I'm hoping most people won't go as far as saying screw the dead guy who committed suicide, but you would feel some type of way, and that's a normal thing. But this guy wasn't also a good person who just started to have resentments when they tied. He was an a-hole. But after Zenitsu got that letter, he has been locked in, and the letter revealed that Gramps committed suicide because Kaigaku became a demon. Now hold on, I don't think Kaigaku had a choice in this. I mean, look at who turned him. Look at that thing. If that thing pulled up in front of me and was like, drink this or I'll kill you, you bet I'm getting to drinking. I'm drinking that thing. I'm not gonna lie. He literally tells him, if you spill a drop of this blood, I will kill you. There's no one else who's telling me they're not drinking it. The actual fight between both of them is probably the shortest out of the three, I think. We get to see other forms of thunder breathing, which was a good addition because I was kind of getting sick of the first form being used over and over and over again. And we also get to see Kaigaku's blood demon art, and I think it's also the first time we've seen a breathing style amplified by a blood demon art. And I was like, that's cool. I didn't know that was possible, but that's cool. And now for the best part of the fight. One of the highlights of the entire movie for me. Like, this was one of my favorite moments in this movie. This is where Zenitsu makes the comeback that he needs and puts some respect on his name. Because I'm not gonna lie, in season 1, Zenitsu annoyed the hell out of me. He was always screaming, always scared, he couldn't do anything. And I'm like, you're a demon slayer, you have lightning. But ever since he got that letter, he was locked in. My guy didn't fall into the Infinity Castle like everyone else, he entered it. He was upside down, fully awake, he was present. This is all him. Turns out he invented a new form to fight beside Kaigoku, but he had to use it to kill him. The 7th form, the Flaming Thunder God. And I was so hyped when this happened. And the score was phenomenal. It sounds like a breaking news song, but it hits for some reason. Obviously I can't play here because of copyright reasons, but I do be playing that thing now and again. And this fight really elevated Zenitsu up in my books, and I think in everyone's. All that for the Crows to not even announce it. And it makes no sense that this is one bit of the movie. I know it's not that big of a deal, but I was like, why wouldn't you announce it? Yes, he wasn't a fully realized Upper Moon, because a fully realized Upper Moon with lightning abilities would be insane. But at least give him some props. Like for the past like what, 2 seasons, he was basically crying all the time. And the one time he's locked in and actually gets the job done, no one knows about it. And I'm hoping they kind of correct that in like a later movie or later season. I don't know what's coming out next. I think a movie's coming out next. But I know if the Crows did not announce it and he tells like Tanjiro and Inosuke, I know Tanjiro will probably believe him and be like, yeah, you know what, good for you, that's all good, because Tanjiro is always like all happy, all this, all that, right? But I know Inosuke is never gonna believe him. Like Inosuke's gonna go find an Upper Moon so he can fight by himself, just so he can one up Zenitsu. Now for the longest fight of the movie, and one I will say that completely changed people's perception of a certain character, to go from, well, hating him or disliking him to not necessarily loving him, but at least understanding why he is the way he is. From the trailer we see Akaza, so we know he's going to be involved in the movie. I wasn't expecting it to be Giyu and Tanjiro versus Akaza, but it was a good thing Giyu was there because he was really holding down the fort in that fight. I'll get through the visual aspect first, and just like the other fights that happened before this one, the animation is great. And I think this fight holds the best extended animation in this movie. That is because the fight constantly changes location, along with all the 3 power sets that are seen in the fight. And the 3 power sets are distinct, even though Tanjiro and Giyu do share water breathing, but he also has sun breathing, so at least there is a difference in the abilities and how they use them. The sound design and the score are also really good, along with the choreography. I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but everything technical about this fight is good. The fight is a very good payoff to some unresolved plot points from the show. We have the murder of Rengoku and Tanjiro seeking revenge for him, as well as Giyu's own internal struggles with being a Hashira. After the Mugen Train arc, I hated this purple eyelashed Sunducker. Rengoku was a definition of having no enemies. This guy was so optimistic about everything, would be the kind of friend who always lights up the mood when they're in the room. So when he lost to Akaza, I was angry, and it was the first time we saw Hashira actually lose a battle and die, so that did raise the stakes. I just didn't know why it had to be Rengoku. Like, why couldn't it be Obanai? And the scene where he gives Tanjiro his final words was so heavy, and one of the emotional highlights of the entire show, especially with the Japanese voice acting. I really hope those actors get paid well, because they bring their A game every single time, and they really got me with that scene. So when I saw Akaza in the trailer, I wanted him dead. And my wish did come true, but not in the way I intended whatsoever. I think it's a ballsy move to dedicate so much time to a character who isn't a main character and who wasn't a good person. And I respect that. I like when movies or shows take risks, even if it doesn't work out. Don't get me wrong, it did work out in this movie. I just appreciate that they're trying something different. I like the fact that the fight engages all individuals involved. We have Giyu getting his mark and actually proving he's worthy to be a Hashira. In fact, I think he is a better Hashira than some of the Hashiras, or most of them actually. And I know it wasn't a major plot point in the show, but I just like the fact that that is resolved and is shown to everyone. This guy is really good and he's worthy of being a Hashira, even if he personally doesn't think he is. Then there's Tanjiro unlocking new skills
he's never used before, and there have been no signs of him being able to perform these skills. It's not the first time he's done something like this before. He once performed something very similar to the first form of thunder breathing. There wasn't a previous hint to this, he just remembered some things Zenitsu told him once. It happens just once, and I'm happy that it happens just once, because if he could spam it, it will bring to the question, can people swap certain variations of breathing styles? Can they perform variations of techniques of breathing styles? And then it will be a question of why doesn't everyone just do this? Because if you could take an aspect of mist breathing and then, you know, combine that with serpent breathing or water breathing, that would be something that the Hashira should be able to do themselves. But I'm happy it happens only once. He does perform the fake rainbow move, and first time I saw that, I was like, that's pretty cool, you know, and I'm okay with the fact that we haven't seen anything like that before from him. I wasn't mad about it, but the transparent world didn't really hit me the way it hit other people, and I think that's for two reasons. One is the flashback in the middle of the fight leading up to it, and the second one is the classic trope of the protagonist unlocking an ability he has never used before and there's been absolutely no mention of, just so he can defeat the villain or save a friend. An example of this is when Eleven just unlocks force healing to save Max. That really pissed me off. She just says, no, you're not going yet. I'm like, what do you mean she's not going yet? She's dead. But then she's not dead. As for the flashback mid-fight, again, I didn't like that because I think I'm getting fed up with the flashbacks at this point. And he's just standing there while Giyu's essentially fighting for his life. I'm like, help him. And I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the flashbacks, not just in the movie, but in like Demon Slayer as a whole. Because the flashbacks themselves, they're good. It's not like the crappy flashbacks that just waste time. They're actually good, and they do fill out some missing pieces for some characters. They always have the emotional weight behind them, so which is why I will watch a flashback. But my problem is the time at which they show up, and for some of them, the length of them. Tanjiro has two flashbacks. The first one, I don't know if it's in the right order to be honest, but one of them is about his dad teaching him about the transparent world and then killing a bear. It was a cool moment to be honest, and such a dad moment. Like, yeah, I'll wake my son up, take him up a cold, snowy mountain, and then kill a bear. Like, that's the kind of dad I'm trying to be. Like, wake up, watch me kill this thing. And I do appreciate every single time Tanjiro's father is shown in a flashback, because there's not much about him in the story. I mean, he's dead at the start of the story. And it was nice to see Tanjiro remember those moments, even though it's in the middle of a fight. And his dad is still helping him from beyond the grave. The second flashback was of the demented mountain god Inosuke. I will cover his character when I eventually make a review of all of Demon Slayer, but I'm happy at least he got some more screen time in this movie. I wish he had more, but I understand. For the sake of the movie, there's only so much you can fit in without it being bloated, and I like that this movie is not bloated, so that was a good choice, and I'm willing to sacrifice, you know, his screen time for that. He tells Tanjiro about the concept of concealing one's killing intent, and when I saw that, I was like, you know what, that kind of makes sense, because he made a reference to the lady, like in season 1, when she kind of sneaks up on him, not intentionally, but he couldn't tell she was coming because she had no ill intent. She didn't want to hurt him. Bringing that all the way back to this movie, I liked that recall, and that's especially useful in this fight, because when you have a character who relies on killing intent, if you hide that killing intent, you can essentially just blindside them, which is what happens. And it made sense while Tanjiro made his presence known to Akaza, because I was like, why would you do that? Even Giyu was like, why would you do that? Why would you sneak up on someone and be like, yeah, I'm gonna behead you now? But that was done so he can hide his killing intent, because if he didn't, Akaza would have still known. The actual content of Akaza's backstory was handled really well. I know I'm quite critical of this fight, but I'm quite critical about everything. But there was only one part of it, like a very minor part, that I was not the biggest fan of. And I think the story itself that was told was a beautiful story to tell. And again, it's another emotional hallmark of the Demon Slayer franchise. It did change my perception of the character of Akaza, to see the beautiful life he could have had with his wife and his mentor being taken away from him because because of people's selfishness and squabbles. And it all makes sense now why he's always been particular about strength, because when he was a human, he believed he was never strong enough to protect those who he loved. And I like the fact that that string ties him from his human form to his demon form. And also the snowflake that appears when he uses his blood demon art, that being her hairpin, that was also a very, very good touch. So I don't have a problem with the story itself. The story is very, very good. It's just one little thing. I wouldn't be completely honest if I didn't talk about the things I didn't really like. That would just be me being disingenuous. To be honest, there aren't a lot of things I don't like about Demon Slayer. I would watch the whole thing again. It's just a few things here and there. The first thing I'll talk about is the story. Now just follow me here. I like Demon Slayer. I like the characters, the character designs, the breathing styles, and the fact that things like insect breathing and serpent breathing are a thing. I like how absurd it sounds and how cool they look. The characters we all see are all different in their own way. Obviously there's the main trio, and their dynamic with each other is one of the highlights of the show. The way they go from borderline hating each other to moments where they show genuine care and love for each other is very heartwarming, especially Inosuke. Despite him not being the sharpest tool in the shed, he still delivers, and you can tell he didn't grow up with people who cared about him, or well, just people in general. So he generally doesn't know how to react when someone shows care towards him. Sometimes he's annoyed by how nice Tanjiro is, other times he just freezes because he doesn't know how to react. And despite the fact that he is dense, he progresses as a character while still keeping his goofy, brash side, and that's why I really like him. The Tanjiro effect can be seen on every single character. Every single character he interacts with an extended period of time, you can see his effect on them. It's an example of when you show people love and care and, well, treat them as people, they put their walls down and you see them for who they really are. This happened with Inosuke, Genya, and Murichiro got hit the hardest with the Tanjiro effect. This man did not hide his favoritism whatsoever. The themes of love, care, respect, tragedy, fear, guilt, being different, friendship, sacrifice, the underdog, these are all themes that make people love the franchise, along with great animation, fight choreography, and all that stuff. But one criticism I have heard about Demon Slayer is the story, and in particular is the simplicity, and that's a valid point to make. Not every story needs to be complex. Not every story needs to have twists and turns and all these complexities. It doesn't have to be a Game of Thrones, a Severance, a Sopranos, so on and so forth. The core story without the flashbacks is a protagonist training and seeking revenge for the murder of his family. Along the way, he makes friends, mentors, and goes on side quests. As they progress up the ladder, they take out henchmen until they get to the top guy. If you strip down all the layers of Demon Slayer, that is what it is, and to me, it's fine that way. I'm saying the story is simple, and people are right to say it's simple, but it works for what it is. It doesn't bother me. There are so many other excellent elements accompanied with a simple story that make it good. But from how the show is written, there are two things I don't particularly like. And I'm saying show because it trickles down to the movie as well, because the movie continues the show's story. The first thing is the stupidity of Muzan, and Muzan has to be one of the dumbest villains I've ever watched. And the thing is, it's not his task is really difficult to accomplish, it's just he's really dumb. He's an idiot. In the first 2 seasons of the show, we do see Muzan, which is a different approach compared to other shows that save the big bad for the later seasons. And in the 2 seasons, I think Muzan is done really well. He has that terrifying factor and seems not to tolerate any nonsense. But as the show goes on, I've come to realize Muzan is really stupid. I mean, think about it. The one guy who ever cornered Muzan, the one guy who made demons scared to go out at night, is gone. And the one thing standing between you and what you were looking for is the Demon Slayer Corps. They are an annoyance that needs to be taken care of. So why has it taken you so long to get this close? The Demon Slayer Corps has also been around for around as long as demons have, so around 1,000 years as well. And by the way, the guy who made you wet yourself has been dead for 400 years before the Infinity Castle plotline. So what the hell have you been doing this entire time? Braiding your ass hair? If Muzan had 2 working brain cells, he would draw out the best, that's the Hashira, and then unleash the 12 moons on them. You don't even need the 12. All you need is the 6, from 6 to 1, and then no more Hashira. And then the lower moons can take care of the Demon Slayer Corps themselves. It's not that difficult. It's not that complex. I don't like when a character is written to be dumb for the sake of the plot, and that's what's happening here. Because if Muzan had common sense, the show would have ended in the first season. As the show goes on as well, there are some patterns that become quite repetitive. A Demon Slayer comes across a higher ranking demon, the demon seems to almost win because they're more powerful, then the heroes get a flashback to power them up to victory. And it's a pattern that worked like in the first maybe 2 seasons, but as the show has gone on, it's getting a bit old. And then right when the demons are at the brink of death, a flashback of their life is shown. Now, I don't mind getting history of a demon. I don't mind that. I think it fleshes them out and it gives them something to fight for. But when it happens at the same point in every single fight, it gets formulaic. So instead, maybe have the flashback be before the fight rather than it being at the same point in every single fight. Like, I can literally predict when a flashback is coming. In fact, one of my favorite fights in the show is Murichiro versus Gyoko. Not just because Murichiro rage baits him, I love that by the way, but also because there was no backstory to try and paint Gyoko as a tragic pot maker or something. There was no need for that, and I was cool with it. Not every demon needs the whole tragic backstory thing to try and make you sympathetic towards them. What I did like was the fact that Murichiro got a backstory, which explained everything and why he has the memory of a goldfish. So I did like the fact that the flashback was for a character that I actually cared about. And after some fights, you really don't care about the backstory of some of these demons because they've just annoyed you to the point you just want them gone. Especially the son of a... He was the most annoying villain, always splitting himself up into smaller parts or more powerful parts, just different parts. He was like 6 or 7 versions of this guy. And then when he was on the point of dying, they tried to give you a backstory for him, and that just pissed me off. I didn't want to hear it. He's been annoying to fight this entire time. He's always crying. He won't shut up. He almost killed Genya. Mitsuri's fighting for her life. Murichiro almost died. Nezuko might be dead. Too much was going on for me to care. Akaza's backstory didn't make me roll my eyes. There was no moment when it started I was like, no again. It was one of the best flashbacks in the show. My only issue is the flashback starts and keeps on going and keeps on going. It's too long. It's just too long. I think for emotional pieces like this, timing is crucial. You don't want to drag it on because people just stop caring after some point. That's why I think Shinobu and Zenitsu's flashbacks were very emotional and they hit very well because they got to the point and they ended. Now, if you disagree with me and think Akaza's backstory wasn't too long and it was perfect, everything about it was good, that's valid. It's all down to opinions when we're talking about shows and movies, and everyone is entitled to their opinion. But as for which flashback had an impact on Demon Slayer as a whole, definitely Akaza's in this movie, no doubt. And it did change how I see demons, because they are just people who have gone through tragic events and are offered an escape at their lowest point, or in Akaza's case, just turned during his lowest point without consent. But then again, it's Muzan. I don't think consent is really his thing. That pretty much sums up my thoughts on the movie. And again, I really like this movie, even though I am critical of certain aspects of the movie and the show. I think it's a good thing to be able to criticize something that you like. It shows you actually like it because you can admit it's not perfect, but you like it for what it is. If you haven't seen the movie and you're watching this, you pretty much know everything that happens in this movie. And I still suggest you go see it. If you haven't seen the Demon Slayer show, you will have no idea what's going on here. So go watch the show and support this franchise. If you're still watching at this point, thank you for sticking around for this long, and do show your support by liking and subscribing. This is a very small channel and I'm mostly doing this just because I love to talk about movies and TV shows. So do show your support and I'll see you in the next one.